Hey guys, I just wanted to make a fairly quick review video over the two topics of today's lesson. One topic is theme and the other one is main idea, or you may have heard of it referred to as central idea. The theme of a story, which you should know, is the main message, lesson, or moral of the story. Now, sometimes the theme can be directly stated in the text, meaning they all learn to be best friends no matter what. Sometimes the author will put something like that, or the lesson that the characters learn throughout the story at the very end of the story. Usually, if it's a fable or a mythical story, the author will directly tell us the theme or the lesson, message, or moral of the story. Sometimes we may have to figure out the theme ourselves. That means a theme is implied in the story, okay? To do this, we ask ourselves what happens to the characters, what important events happen to the characters throughout the story, okay? Then maybe how do the characters react to those events in the story? Then we also ask ourselves, what do the characters learn? That's a huge clue as to the theme of the story, because the theme is the lesson about life that we learn from reading the story, and probably what the characters learn as well. And then how do the characters grow or change? So if you're noticing that a character is completely different at the end of the story than they were at the beginning of the story, for instance, maybe they were a bully at the beginning of the story, and now towards the end they are best friends with the person they used to bully and they're kind to everyone. Maybe that gives you a huge clue as to what the theme of the story will be. Then, of course, ask yourself, what is the author trying to teach me? This is different from the author's purpose for writing, because that's persuade, inform, entertain, explain, or describe. This is what they want you to learn. Now, that being said, theme is usually only in books or texts that tell a story. So meaning that there's characters, setting, problem, conflict and resolution, or problem and solution to the problem. That's fiction. Or you could even have a true story about someone's life that still has all of these things and could still have a theme. But theme is usually in text that tell us a story. Okay, so if you're reading a book about volcanoes and you notice that there's a lot of photographs, there's a lot of facts and maybe dates, then it probably doesn't have a theme or a life lesson in it. Even though you're learning something from reading the volcano book or whatever nonfiction book it is, doesn't necessarily mean that it has a theme and a life lesson, okay? Now, some examples of theme are be kind to others. If you've read the book Wonder, which I highly recommend, it's for like 4th or 5th grade, but once you get to 4th or 5th grade, if you just so happen to remember Miss Casson saying read Wonder, or you could probably read it now or have your parent read it to you. It's an amazing book. That's definitely in Wonder. The theme is to be kind to others, even maybe if they're different from you, okay? Another theme is friends are important. For me, and probably a book that you have read, is Charlotte's Web. Charlotte and Wilbur's friendship was very important to both of them, particularly Wilbur, because he was about to be slaughtered before Charlotte decided to write her web messages, and then everyone all of a sudden became interested in him. Now, friends are important is probably not the only theme in Charlotte's Web, but it's definitely one of them. Another theme that we see often is don't give up. So I would say one of the themes in Lemonade War that I've read it's on HMH Ed. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it to you. It is very good. One of the themes in the story is definitely don't give up. Both characters in the story really tried to be the winner and challenged one another. Now, there's definitely another maybe major theme in that story, and you'll probably understand once you read it, but definitely one of them is to not give up, and that's a theme in a lot of stories that we've read. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next anchor chart. It is over central idea. Now, the central idea or main idea of a text is what the text is mostly about. It's just a one-sentence summary of the text. The tricky part is figuring out what it is mostly about, okay? And central idea or main idea is different from theme because central idea and main idea could be in both fiction and nonfiction texts, okay? Today's lesson is going to focus on finding the main idea of fiction text, but keep in mind nonfiction text also have a main idea or central idea, okay? Now to find the central idea, we look for headings or chapters of the book, pictures that the author chose to include. If it's a fiction book, the illustrations. If it's nonfiction, maybe diagrams, charts, photographs. What did they choose to include in the pictures? Because that's a huge clue as to what the book is mostly about. Sometimes the first or last sentence in a book will be a huge clue, okay? Now, sometimes with the last sentence, it may give away the entire story if it's the last sentence. So make sure when you're writing the central idea that you're not giving away the entire end. And also, like the other anchor chart said, the last sentence of a story could be the theme. And you do not want to get those mixed up, okay? If you're noticing that a word is repeated often when you're reading, that could also be a huge clue to the central idea, because if the author is using that word or that idea multiple times, that's probably what the text is mostly about. So repeated words or repeated ideas throughout the reading are probably clues for the central idea. Okay, now you may notice this little table. Now, when we have our central idea, we need to support it with details in the text, okay? So for instance, let's use Charlotte's Web. The main idea of Charlotte's Web is a spider saves a pig by writing words in her spider web, okay? The first detail would be maybe Wilbur was about to get slaughtered. That's how she saves him, right? He was about to get slaughtered, but she saved him. And then the next detail would maybe be her first message that she wrote in the spider webs. Then another detail would maybe be them going to the fair. And then the last detail would be her final spider web message, okay? Another way to evaluate details to determine the central idea are examples, if it's nonfiction, examples of whatever they're talking about, okay? Facts, important facts. Evidence, so things that are, again, proven to be facts. And then when the author spends time describing something in detail, that's probably pretty important. Now, if you're reading a fiction story, if they're describing the setting in detail, that probably means they just want to put the reader in the story. So be careful that you're actually supporting the central idea, okay? Now I'm about to share the screen that goes over the assignment that you will be using today. Okay. Okay, here it is. Okay, it says click through the slides to practice determining the main idea and theme of a selection. Okay, so let's go to our next slide. You may notice this little link up at the top. That is actually a link to another teacher going over this. So if you fell asleep when Miss Cassie was talking, or you just are nosy and want to see what she has to say, feel free to listen to her describing this assignment as well, okay? Now the example that they give us is actually using the story Why the Sky is Far Away that you should have read yesterday. It says the main idea is how the people ended up not eating from the sky. Okay, that's what it's mostly about. The first reason why they ended up not eating from the sky is they became wasteful. They were taking what they weren't going to eat and just leaving it around. Okay. Then another reason they supported it is that the text said take only what you eat/need. And then another way that they support that main idea is the people take more than they need at Obo's party. So there's multiple examples of why the people ended up not eating from the sky, because they were wasteful. They weren't taking what the sky said, take only what you need or will eat. And then they didn't listen and they continued to take more than they needed, okay? So this is the main idea, how people ended up not eating from the sky, excuse me. They became wasteful. So the sky said, take only what you need. They didn't listen, and then they did it again. So the sky was like, well, I'm gonna move it up here because I don't want to be next to y'all anymore. And that is why the sky is so far away, according to the Nigerian folktale. Okay. Now the theme of that story, which may or may not be directly stated, so maybe go back and look and see if the author directly stated the theme. If not, you're going to have to figure it out yourself. The example says, you should only take what you need, appreciate what you have. So that is the lesson that we learn from Why the Sky is So Far Away, that you should only take what you need and appreciate what you have, because if you don't do this, you may not get the thing that you've been wasting anymore, okay? Then what I want you to do is to go to the next slide. It says, read The Golden Flute. It is a traditional Chinese folktale. When you have finished reading the folktale, complete the next slide. Okay, so you're going to click right here. And it's going to bring this up. Okay, make sure when you read, I know it printed off kind of weird, but, or it looks kind of weird up here, but this is actually something that you can print off and kind of fold into a book. So that's why it looks like this. Make sure that you are reading from left to right. So you're going to read this page, then the right page, okay? Another way to help you is to look at the page number. This page and this page. It's not very long. And as you read, I want you to be thinking about what this story is mostly about, okay? What's your one sentence summary, okay? Use the picture, use repeated words or ideas to help you figure out what the story is mostly about. And also, as you read, be looking for the lesson about life that this folk tale is wanting the reader to learn, okay? Now I'm gonna go back to the slide that we were looking at. Oh no, where'd it go? Is this it? Yes, okay. After you're done reading, you're gonna type the title of the text right here, what you think the text is mostly about, excuse me, and then 3 pieces of supporting evidence that supports your main idea. How do you know that the text is mostly about that? Okay, then don't forget down here, I know it's kind of small, write the theme or the lesson about life that the reader learns from the story. Please let me know if you have any questions. When you click on the link on the assignment, it will force you to make a copy. So no, you haven't done anything wrong. It's just so that you don't edit this, because then everyone will see your answers. Comment or email me if you have any questions. All right, guys, have a good day.